Good morning. Yes, there's a substitute teacher in class today. My name is Bran Engelman from the New American Media. Thank you to Bob France for allowing me to sit in this chair. Of course, this chair is a little different today. I'm here at the sports bar. You can call me Brian the bartender. We're going to talk about all the stories on the screens behind me. Yes, we're going to scroll through the news, a lot of news. Two prominent people have passed from this experience. Yes, Alan Greenspan and Clive Davis. You know, whenever anybody passes, you have some interesting career highlights, and then you got this other bag of stuff. It's always interesting. What type of legacy are we going to leave behind? So we're going to talk about that a little bit, really just touch and go, but there's a lot going on. Thank you so much for being here. I want to hear from you. Type in the comments. Question of the day. And by the way, over the course of the next couple hours, I might have a few questions of the day because I enjoy interacting with you. If you were at the fantastic event in Columbus, Ohio yesterday with Mr. Bob France, let's hear your highlights. What stood out to you? What are you taking home? What are you taking away from that experience? What did it do for you? What should other people know about the event? The grand celebration for America's 250th birthday. I mean, has America been more divided? No, America's never been more divided. Come on. Let's pull a Zach Morris on Saved by the Bell. Timeout. And everybody freezes while Zach does a close-up on the camera. It's still one of the best shows of all time. Just scrolled past Tiffany Amber Thiessen, by the way, from that show. She does like cooking shows on Facebook or something. She looks exactly the same as she did like 30 years ago. But has America been more divided? Of course we have. Of course we have. I mean, we had a rift with England. That was pretty jarring. That was a Revolutionary War. War of 1812. We had to kind of keep it. That was pretty jarring. We had a civil war. That was pretty jarring. A civil rights movement in the 1960s. That was pretty jarring. Post 9/11, pretty jarring. And then today, you have people that are putting up American flags and patriotic. And we're not saying it's a perfect country, but it's sort of like in those movies where nobody badmouths the family. People that take some pride and say, there's those jokes. Only I'm allowed to kick my dog. You can't come into my house and kick my dog. Which is always kind of a stupid one. It's like, don't kick your dog regardless, unless he's eating a baby or something. Or like the story out of England where, that unnamed fella tossed a baby in with a crocodile. That's the only time you really kick an animal is when they're attacking something you don't want attacked. But, you either love America or you hate America. And if you love America, it's not saying we're perfect. You can love your spouse. You can love you can love some of the creature comforts of your job that it provides, but you could say, well, it's not really what I wanted. There's pros and cons. Similar to when a celebrity passes. Similar when a, political figure from the private banking cartel known as the Federal Reserve. Isn't it the third time we've had a private Western Central Bank? Alan Greenspan. There's pros and cons. But America is so divided. You have people that love this country and want to be a part of it. And you have people that are, slicing through the reflecting pool and dumping fertilizer in to turn it green. You had protesters out there pro-algae. Yeah. So it's okay. It's okay that we're divided. We always have been. We always will be. But we have to win. And that's sort of what Bob was putting together. Bob was participating in yesterday in Columbus, a big party, a big celebration, and it's a gathering. We want all of you in chat to join the family. We're already in the family, but, maybe it's a distant cousin. Maybe what yesterday was a bit of a family reunion. Oh, my long lost distant cousin, 2 times removed, second removed. And that's what it's all about. We have to win. And here's the good news. Since U.S. aid has dried up, I believe there have been 7 Central or South American, south of Mexico, countries that have had elections, 7-0. And I was trying to think, what do you call it? Republicans versus Democrats. Obviously, when you leave the States, it gets into the Labour Party in the UK. You heard yesterday, Keir Starmer resigned. You can't really count that one as a win because it's a lot like Justin Trudeau leaving. Justin Trudeau leaves Canada and you put Mark Carney in. It's like, meet your new boss. Same as before. Equally garbage. But I believe since U.S. aid has stopped stealing our money out of our pockets, sending it to as many countries as possible to install their deep state, globalist, New World Order, Democrat, whatever you want to define it, it's really the same thing. You could call it deep state, you could call it globalist, New World Order, whatever term you want. They're 0-7 now that they're not allowed to steal our money thanks to Elon Musk, Doge, and President Trump. Tulsi Gabbard just left office, and, dropping that story about Fauci on a Friday, it's an interesting move. And waiting until your last day to drop that story on Fauci, that's another interesting move. Very interesting indeed. But we got to be grateful for people like Tulsi Gabbard and Bobby Kennedy, non-traditional, air quote, Republicans. They might not be on our side, but you know what? The enemy of our enemy is our friend. I know. That'll get us into a world of hurt in the Middle East. Hey, let's join some forever wars. Forever and ever. Forever, ever. Forever, ever. But we have a lot to be thankful for. The fact that people like Tulsi Gabbard, Bobby Kennedy decided to jump over and help the cause. It's been referred to as a pirate ship of misfit politicians that don't really fit in. What is America? On my dad's mother's side, we had Jacob D. Haven. He was, for all intents and purposes, a pirate that was on the East Coast robbing the British merchant ships. He was a part of the revolution. And in fact, those goods and supplies that were confiscated from those ships were then used to acquire, gold and silver, whatever the currency with not greenbacks. They were continentals. I believe that was after the revolution, but they weren't worth the paper they were printed on because they weren't backed by anything. Now we're getting back to Alan Greenspan and the Federal Reserve private banking cartel, but I digress. That treasure was then used to help fund the revolution. Whether we literally have the spirit of revolution in our blood, and I'm very grateful to have learned about this Jacob D. Haven fella, or whether we're going to be the first generation to stand up and do something about it. Peacefully and patriotically. Of course, peacefully and patriotically. It's our duty to pass it forward. It's our duty to preserve what we have and make it better. And you see what's happening across the globe. You could be reticent. You could have concerns. You could have qualms with maybe some of what President Trump tweets or some of what President Trump says, or, why does he have this guy on his cabinet? And what are they doing here? And who is this lady? What are they doing? I'm concerned about the influence that they have, that they've donated to the camp. Okay. Every politician, you're going to have a hodgepodge of these things. But if you look from the Panama Canal to figuring out something in Greenland, by the way, we already have an agreement with Greenland. We already have bases up there, but we're reconfiguring the entire game of Risk, the entire globe. Have you ever played the game of Risk? And it's about positioning. It's about strategy. Panama Canal, Greenland, Venezuela, Iran. Now, Iran's a bit of a quagmire, a bit of a thing right now, and this was not clean and quick like Venezuela. We got spoiled. You show up in the middle of the night with a discombobulator and kablamo. There you go. It's done. On to the next thing. Well, Iran is proving to be a little trickier than that, but we sort of knew that. The stories are that Charlie Kirk specifically talked to President Trump and said, please don't do this. This is not a good idea. Now, maybe so, maybe not. It's that old proverb of, I believe it's a Chinese proverb. There's a farmer and his family, and one day one of his 3 horses runs away. And the neighbor comes up, hears the story, goes, "Oh my gosh, that's horrible. You lost one of your horses. You're down 33% of your capabilities. How are you going to plow the fields? Oh, this is going to be the end of you." And the farmer says, "Well, maybe so, maybe not." A few days later, that horse comes back to the ranch, to the farm. And you know what? Found a couple of wild Mustangs. He's now the leader, and he's brought 5 more horses to the farm. Well, let's call it 6 more horses, doubling, tripling. Anyway, however the math works out. "Oh my gosh," the neighbor says, "look at this. What a great fortune. You got all these new horses. You're on top of the world. You're going to crush it." He goes, "Yeah, maybe so. Maybe not." A couple days later, the son is trying to break that horse in, one of these wild horses, trying to tame them. And it violently bucks and kicks the son off. Call it an 18-year-old kid. Could be 16 or 14. Bucks him off, lands violently, twists his leg, breaks his leg. "Oh no," says the neighbor, "this is horrific. You're not going to have your eldest son to help you harvest your crops. What's going to happen? This is surely the worst thing that could have happened to you. I'm so sorry." He says, "Yeah, maybe so. Maybe not." Later on in the week, the army rolls through town, the military, the armed forces, whatever you want to call it, in whatever country we decide to set this in. It's usually China. Comes through, they're conscripting young men. If you're healthy, you're able-bodied, you're joining the military. We're taking you. We're not asking you, "Would you like to join and serve your country? We can do it." You say, "Oh, you're able-bodied? With us." They just take you. But because the eldest son is lame, laid up with a splint and a broken leg, his life is spared because that army marched off to a complete annihilation and defeat. So, maybe not. We don't know. When we're in the middle of things, it's hard to tell what's what. And there's a lot of positivity and negativity. There's a lot of shows out there that will focus on the negative, and that's fine. There's a market for that. I get it. But I try not to do that on the New American Media. I try not to do that today with you on Strictly Speaking Unfiltered with Bob France. And so as we reconfigure the globe, the game of Risk, 7-0, replacing deep state. We're just going to call them deep state globalist, New World Order types who essentially are only installed, be it Canada, England, Joe Biden. Are you kidding? 81 million. Cool story. And hopefully the real story will come out in time. You have governments that work to siphon and take as much as they can from the country, from the general public, from the coffers. Really, it's like a bunch of meth heads going through an abandoned house, stripping it of copper, just destroying something that's pretty great because you got to get your next fix. And you can take a bunch of scrap copper down to the scrapyard. They'll melt it down and give you $40 and you can get high that day. Now, when the globalists, the deep state gets high, yeah, we're talking trillions. How do we end up with 37 trillion on a credit card? Well, perhaps because of people like Alan Greenspan and the Federal Reserve private banking cartel. There's a lot of stuff that we're trying to fix right now. And as Tulsi Gabbard said yesterday, I believe it's in my stack. I'll try to get to a whole bunch of stories today. There's a lot of deep state forces entrenched that are still fighting tooth and nail. Don't think because President Trump won in a landslide a year and a half ago, it's done, everything's fixed, we're good to go. That's not really how it works. That's not really how it works. It's a process. It's a slog. The only way you get through it is day by day, foot in front of the other, trying to make it work. And so while Bob, here, let's put this up on the screen. There we go. So while your dear leader, your general, your field marshal, Bob France, is doing live radio in Houston, while he rallied the troops yesterday in Columbus. And when I say troops, a lot of people say I'm pushing for violence. I said peacefully and patriotically. When I say troops, I mean the people. I mean the Patriots. I mean you. When you're in Columbus, it's an adrenaline shot. It's like that scene in Pulp Fiction. 3. What does he say? 1, 2, 3. Shot of adrenaline. It stops her overdosing. We need these moments. And if you look at the World Cup, do you see the world loving America? Oh my gosh, imagine what happens. You don't realize how beaten down you've been as an American until you have these little moments of clarity, And I think the World Cup has been one of these. My favorite content is people from across the globe coming over, and they love it here. They love the scenery. They love the people. They love the dining. They love the experiences. They're just in love with America. And it feels so different. That feels like the Ronald Reagan era of the 80s, doesn't it? When you got to George Bush, it got a little wonky with Iraq and wouldn't be prudent. You know, some old CIA stalwart leading into Clinton with that whole thing, the Rush Limbaugh era of keeping tabs on Clinton. And then George W. Bush with 9/11, and we've been off for a while. But you watch the World Cup reaction, it's like the World Cup didn't need the U.S. The U.S. needed the World Cup. And it's not football, it's soccer. Call it soccer. But why not us? Why couldn't we win it this year? We took gold in hockey. Let's go get it. Got a good team. We're already in the, whatever they call it. I don't know. I'm not an expert. Knockout round or something like that. My favorite content is watching people experience America and loving it. Loving it. And it feels so good to feel good again. We haven't felt good in this country for a long time. You don't understand the damage done by Barack Hussein Obama. You know, in 07, 06, this unknown senator with kind of the more you looked into his background, you're like, hang on, what? Harvard Law Review? What? Indonesia? Hawaii? What? Kenya? What are you, Barack Hussein Obama? Barry Soweto? What are you? Who are you? Oh, look, you know who I'm full of hope. Hopeity hope and changeity change. And look, you know, I told Michelle the other day, we're just 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America. You know, you got this tall, slender, well put together, charismatic, youthful, half white, half black, eloquent speaker. He's not so much an eloquent speaker. He's great at reading a teleprompter. Get him off script. Okay. But you had this guy come in with hopeity hope, changeity change, and that was 08. That was 07. Call it 07 because he's a community agitator, organizer. From 07 until 26. I mean, we're halfway through 26. Call it 27. 20 years of Barack Hussein Obama destroying this country. Oh, what are you talking about, Brian? He only had 2 terms. Did he really win that second term? The more we look into Fulton County, Georgia, Maricopa, Arizona, Los Angeles, California, the more we look into how our voting has been tabulated in a couple of key massive areas with phantom homeless voters and computer tabulation machines. Did he really win that second term? I still don't believe there's any universe where after seeing what he delivered for 4 years, we decided, hey, let's run that one back. It's like the Browns have Hugh Jackson and you win no games. It's like, yeah, let's sign him to an extension. No, that didn't go well. But really, you had 2 terms of Barack Hussein Obama. Then you had President Trump, but that was Barry's third term. His deep state chopping President Trump down at the knees every chance he get. He's a Putin puppet. Look, Russia, Russia, Russia. You know, look, he's a Putin puppet. They said that stuff. They impeached him when he exposed what was going on in Ukraine, the Victoria Nuland, Barack Hussein Obama, Joe Biden war, when they overthrew their leader and started pushing all their weapons onto the border of Russia, trying to force a conflict because Russia's the boogeyman. And oh, great, we get to make the boogeyman the same one that put President Trump in. It's a great story. Let's tell it nonstop. Just like, oh yeah, there was an insurrection without a single shot fired and without a command from the leader to go get him. Cool story, bro. Cool story. Well, Tulsi Gabbard was called the same thing. She was, Hillary attacked her mercilessly, ruthlessly. Yeah, you're a product of Russia, aren't you, Tulsi Gabbard? No. No, you got some patriots that are fighting your deep state endeavors. So, you know what? Kudos to Bob and the team for putting together that event yesterday. He says here, thank you so much to all the friends and supporters, especially the insiders, for joining us in Columbus yesterday. I hope the event was worth your time. Speaking of worth your time, shout out to Patriot Warrior Texas. He's one of our regulars, our TNAM trash pandas over at the New American Media. We're usually live Monday through Friday, noon to 3, noon to 2, noon to 2 or 3, depending on how heavy a news day. Yeah, I tried to make sure. I said, hey, everybody, make sure you're following Bob France and Strictly Speaking. Come on over. He goes, I've been following him since I found out you were helping him. I said, well, thank you, John. And here he is in the chat. Happy to have you here. Lots of good eggs is what we're saying. If we're on the same team, we don't need to parse the details. We don't need to go back and forth. We don't need to nitpick. We need to stay united while Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes and Marjorie Taylor Greene are defecting. Well, it's not like Nick Fuentes was ever a Republican, so you can set that aside. Tucker, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and you got Massey. Massey has some of those great liberty scores. He was still run out. But he was so libertarian, he wouldn't even work with MAGA. He sort of, I've talked to a lot of libertarians, he sort of did that to himself. But you're seeing a divide. You're seeing you're seeing a coordinated effort to stretch apart the fabric, to try to create a tear. Once you get one little tear, it's downhill from there. There's no turning back. So let's try to stay united. Doesn't mean we're perfect. Doesn't mean we've got everything figured out. But it does mean that we're going to be battling the forces of evil. And so thank you all for being here today. So, without further delay, let's grab our favorite beverages and launch today's program. Strictly Speaking Unfiltered with Bob France. Filling in. Thank you for being here. Let's rock.
Crank it up. Let it roll. Stars and stripes in my soul. Steel toes on, boots in the gravel. Heartland truth on every channel. Open Bible, flag on the wall. We say what we believe or we don't talk at all. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. We back the bad, we guard the border. We love our guns and law and order. They try to shame every word we say, but we don't bow down. We just press play. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the bell. Hey, land of the free on every spell. Hit that mic, host, let the truth ring out. This is red, white, and raised hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born to a rail, from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raised hell.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Whew. All right. Good morning, everybody in chat. Let me get caught up. B. Morgan, good Tuesday morning, Patriots. Yes, Sally. Phone's a problem today, but good morning. Well, I love technology, except for when it doesn't work. Calvinist, good morning to you. 3 of 11. Good morning. Yes, everyone smash the like button, the thumbs up button. I am Roz says, what a program in Columbus yesterday. If you were at the event, tell me in chat real quick. What was your favorite part of the event yesterday? Tell us what people missed that weren't able to attend and why they should make sure to hit the next one. Lisa, good morning, Lisa. Good morning, Patriots. Geez, what is that? Hockey Playmaker 88? I think my brain was able to decipher that. Good morning to you. Joanne Burger, what is that? Burger du Monde. Good morning, Patriots. Hello. Rosebud up and early. Ah, yes. Welcome, Brian. Enjoy the ride. I just sent a chat. Bob and I are both in the studio. He's doing the Houston show, and I'm doing this one. So everybody follow Bob and Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. Make sure you're telling friends. I'm here at the bar today. We're talking about all the stories, but invite your friends. We're open early. It's like World Cup. You got a match. You got Cameroon playing Zimbabwe in the World Cup or something. We're open at 7 a.m. because who knows what time zone. We're open. We're open early. Bring your friends. Text your friends and say, hey, if you love America, you got to love Strictly Speaking Unfiltered. And really, special thanks to Bob France for letting me jump in. Bob and I have known each other for a while now. He's been a member of the Unhappy Hour Sports Show. It's a sports group that I do, the Unhappy Hour Sports Show. Indians, Cavs, Browns, and Buckeyes. But yeah, we've known each other for a while. I've had him on with the New American Media. And by the way, please follow the New American Media in all the platforms. Patreon, Rumble, YouTube, Truth Social, X, we're at American_media_. The New American Media, the Unhappy Hour. Follow us in all the places. Of course, the TNAM Daily Show is the Monday through Friday. And then the Agree to Disagree Show is where I had Bob join us. Bob might have been on the Unhappy Hour and the Agree to Disagree show, come to think of it. But yeah, I've known Bob for a little while now. He's been on a couple of my shows. I've been on a couple of his. And when he launched from terrestrial to this streaming platform, I offered my assistance to help get him set up. There's a lot to take in. And I say you're juggling chainsaws and apples. Don't forget to take a few bites. You better catch the right part of the chainsaw. It's a lot. You're doing the show prep. You're doing the engineering. You're being the on-air talent. You're producing. You're running the chat. You're trying to find the next story. It's a lot. But yeah, it's been fun helping Bob with that. And it's a pleasure being with you today. So yes, Joanne, I will enjoy the ride. Thank you so much. Lisa says, I had the live stream of the Columbus event on. I was still working last night. Well, look, if you can't be there, you be there in spirit. You stream it. If you can't join the show live, you check out the show whenever you can. And it's about inviting the friends so they can double the size of the program. Sherbank, good bleary-eyed morning, Patriots, especially those of you who were on the bus to Columbus yesterday. Yeah, I was talking with Bob after, it was as he was getting in his truck to get back to his house. And then we had to get this set up. And there were challenges. But 2 smart Patriots. What's the only thing better than 1 smart Patriot? 2 smart Patriots. No, this is not an endorsement or an ad read for 4 Patriots. I know they're a service out there. We're not doing that, but we figured it out, and I'm happy to do it. By the way, speaking how we're not doing ad reads, Go to Charlie's Auto Repair, serving Lakewood and surrounding areas. Honest work, fair prices done right. And check out Mark King, Medicare specialist. He's going to keep Medicare simple. He makes Medicare easy for you to understand. So support the sponsors of this program because you're supporting Bob. If you're supporting Bob, you're supporting patriotism. If you're supporting patriotism, you're supporting America. See how it goes? That's how it goes. If you want to see more of something, you support it. And if you're like, well, I don't live near that auto shop, you know what? You could go on their social media page and just say, hey, Bob talks about you all the time. I'm not local, but I recommend you to people that are local. Keep up the good work. Just something it's the energy flow. Playing ping pong, playing tennis. You hit it back over the other side. Sponsors love to hear about that. But yes, it is a bleary-eyed morning for sure. I don't normally broadcast at 7. I'm happy. I am thrilled to be here. I really am. It took a few new alarms to make that happen. But thanks for being here, Sherbink. Joanne couldn't listen to yesterday's events, but glad so many people attended. All right, it was an extraordinary time. Happy. Macromia, good morning to you. Number 1 Rhino, let it roll. I love the smell of napalm in the morning. What a great line. Big Jake in the house, happy to have you. Black Belt 8, welcome. Sherbink says the highlight was Brian Anderson, Brian Anderson, he was a pitcher for the Cleveland Indians, right? Brian Anderson, the triple amputee, was incredibly moving and loved listening to him. Excellent. Lisa saying, welcome, Brian. And yeah, Saved by the Bell was entertaining. Fun fact, while in Nashville, back in my days as as an agent, I was in Nashville, Tennessee at the Grand Ole Opry, and I got to hang out drinking with Mr. Belding. I'm leaving it at that. Lisa, hey, Bob. Lisa wants to tell you did a fantastic job last night. That feels about right. Sigunta, Fauci should be in jail. Amen. Fauci for prison and quit paying him. Double amen. I blame Fauci personally for the loss of my younger brother. Double pneumonia, COVID, and a terrible medical system that denied him ivermectin at the right dosages and the right duration, denied hydroxychloroquine, denied the vitamin C drip in the Merrick protocol that his other doctor was saying this is what we want him on. And the current hospital said, we will not do anything other than our narrow, rigid regimen of essentially remdesivir that the nurses and medical staff referred to colloquially often as run death is near, and then a ventilation tube, and then into an early grave. So yeah, Fauci for prison and more. And I've volunteered to flip the switch or squeeze the thing if he's found guilty of war crimes, crimes against humanity, and I believe he should. Big Jake just came in about 7 a.m., wondered who this guy is. Who is this guy? Did I hijack the logo? You might be okay. I guess I missed the intro. Well, I did the intro with the music, and then I did my monologue, and then we did the intro. So yeah, it's all a little discombobulated today, but good nonetheless. Lois Serene says, morning, it was an inspirational evening with Bob down there in Columbus. After seeing and hearing Brian Anderson, one realizes how blessed we are to live in the U.S. Yes. And all the World Cup footage, it shows you the same thing. We are lucky to be here, and we got to fight to keep it. It's not passed down from one generation to the next in the bloodstream. It's not a birthright, said Ronald Reagan. I'm paraphrasing. It must be fought for by every generation. C. Gunta says, Biden pardoning Fauci is another sickening consequence of stealing an election. Oh, yeah. So does the auto pen count? If Biden didn't really get 81, does he really have the ability to issue pardons? Lord almighty, fingers crossed, we're going to get some justice on that. Lisa joining me and saying, yeah, Tulsi and Bobby for the win. You always won when you played Risk. As Kramer said on Seinfeld, Ukraine is weak. I forgot about that episode. He takes the Risk board onto the subway. He's trying to keep the pieces from falling. Okay, that was great. No, Laura Seaton, you didn't miss the intro. I just do a later intro. That's how I do it over on TNAM. So yes. Okay. Let's finish digging through the chat here. See, Junta, bury the Indonesian raised Marxist, still dreaming of destroying America. Look, in 5 days, we're just 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America into a communist hellscape, Marxist hellscape, Bob was answering one of your questions saying he's on KTRH Radio Roz, in for Jimmy Barrett. There you go. The next 50 years, we'll still be feeling the result of these corrupt terms. Oh, yeah, but we're working on it. So let's not infight, please. See, Junta, Barry's henchman, Brennan needs to be indicted. Yeah, Comey, Clapper, Brennan, Kinzinger, Schiff, Pelosi, Cheney, the unselect committee. Oh, yeah. Mayorkas, Biden, Harris. Oh, my gosh. There are so many people that deserve to be indicted. Tulsi Gabbard was saying, hey, hang tight, like there's a lot we're working on. Deb wants to chime in and says, we all enjoyed yesterday's event with Bob France down in Columbus. Great people, great food, great music, inspired by the Patriots and the call to step it up. AFP, CVA. Now, I know AFP is Americans for Progress, right? No, prosperity. Sorry, progress is a dirty word. Americans for Prosperity. I don't know what CVA is. All right. True Blue. Bob says he finished the Ice Ice Baby parody on the bus ride home, y'all. Nice. He wrote the lyrics and had AI sing them with music that won't violate the Vanilla Ice copyright. That, of course, was Under Pressure. Vanilla Ice, when asked, he goes, no, my song goes, the original Under Pressure goes, doom, 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 doom. Mine goes, doom, 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 doom. See, it's different. No, bro, it's not different. See, Junta, America's infiltrated government education and indoctrination. Government education and mass media systems are the enemy of the people. Amen. Our young are being brainwashed about socialism. Double amen. They must be shown the 100 million deaths from socialism. Yes. So what is Linda McMahon doing about it? Bobby Kennedy needs to be working on Trump derangement syndrome and the disease, the mental rot epidemic, what happens when you get radical groomer, indoctrinator, educators creating tiny little marching armies of brainwashed Marxists. That's one of the biggest failures so far. Bobby not properly addressing Trump derangement syndrome and Linda McMahon not properly changing our school system. You've got to have, now it's not just about stupid pro-America propaganda, rewriting history and pretending things didn't happen, but for the love of God, you have Whoopi Goldberg up there grilling J.D. Vance. Well, why are you're changing things? You're taking things away. He's like, Whoopi, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, if you go to a national park, you don't really need to be hit over the head with slavery. How about, here's a great national park. Look at how great America is. I went to the caves at one of our national parks. And there's there was a nice, very coordinated segment about slavery and slaves. And it's like, why was this shoehorned in? Now, I get it. People worked in these places. I get it. But why does everything have to, they're beating you down. You don't like America. You don't like yourself. You don't like your skin. You don't like your lineage. You don't like your history. Hate, 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 hate. Join us. We hate it too. We'll go be pro-algae together at the reflecting pool. That's what the Dems are off to. Big Jake. First, I thought I got into some other channel. No, you're here. Then I went back and restarted. Still Bob. All right. Bob is out there trying to decide when to drop his Ice Ice Baby parody. Queen Mother, good morning. Wish she could have been on the bus yesterday, but she's still soaking up the sun in Florida. You don't have to apologize for that. Us native Northeast Ohioans, like myself, grew up outside of Cleveland. Went to school at Bowling Green State University. Yeah, that Florida sun, there's nothing like it. But I'll tell you, there's nothing like a Northeast Ohio 4th of July. Bob Tony, his paid unfiltered insiders will get the parody first. If you're not a insider for the unfiltered insiders, make sure you do that. DJ says, love the intro. All the speakers rocked at the event. That's a good idea, Bob. Bob France says maybe free, give the Ice Ice Baby song free to the insiders and a 99-cent download for anyone else. Yeah. Where is the bar? We're in a crater on the dark side of the moon. We're in a crater on the dark side of the moon. Welcome. Pull up your virtual chair. Lisa says, Tucker is such a disgrace. Yeah, I mean, it was like Tucker and Marjorie and Massey and some of these others. They were the darlings. Oh, who's the other? Nancy Mace. You know, there was like this crop of people doing some interesting things on the Republican side. Now a lot of them have been given the Heisman, jettisoned off into orbit. Patriot War, 2 smart patriots and lots of ammo. Well, saying Biden never was president, so null and void. Wouldn't it be interesting if Tulsi Gabbard's director of national intelligence report that says there was a grand conspiracy to frame and overthrow President Trump and to install Joe Biden? Well, are we ever going to see some indictments on that? Wouldn't it be great to rewrite history accurately to not let him get away with it? Now, of course, that damage is done. My father at my little brother's wake said, you know, I'm convinced if President Trump were president, my son would still be alive right now. You know, I'm trying real hard to watch my language because on my show, I'm a little more free flowing with it. I caught myself there. It's kind of a tough thing to hear. But, you know, when Biden came in, it was all about blocking monoclonal antibodies. It had massive success in Florida, but they didn't want you to see that Florida was doing well with monoclonal antibodies and ivermectin and such. No, they had to sell their product and they had to keep you locked up and they had to push their mail-in votes. And it was all just, I don't know if every step along the way was a coordinated plan, but man, oh man, looking back at it now, it just seems like all of it was tied together. Fauci, Biden at the center of it. So yeah, Lord willing, we're going to find out what really happened to put Joe Biden, former Vice President Joe Biden, into that position. Oh, thank you, Raj. She says CVA is Concerned Veterans for America. They're affiliated with AFP. They put on yesterday's event. Thank you for clarifying that. Laura Seen as well. Thank you for that. See, Gunta says, Bob needs to check out Aaron Lewis's song, Give Me Back My Country. Also, Country Boy. Woo, Aaron Lewis, Country Boy, lead singer from Stained. He's been doing country. Country Boy is a great song. I don't know if I've heard Give Me Back My Country, but I want to check it out. Big Jake asks, is there a cure for Trump derangement syndrome? If not, they will have to die off slowly. Yeah. I think we've heard the left say something similar about baby boomers and clinging to their God and their guns. Geez, who was it? Was it Pelosi or Whoopi Goldberg or Kamala, or maybe it was Hillary, made a comment that she was lambasted for about just needing to wait for the old Republicans to die off. I do vividly recall that uproar. She's calling for Americans to die. And it's like, on one hand, you get like, she's just saying demographically, which is why they're trying to replace America with non-Americans, fighting aged men from parts unknown, history unknown, criminal history specifically unknown, health history unknown, work history unknown, political religious affiliations unknown, to infiltrate this country and Canada and all of Europe and basically throw a dart anywhere on the globe. You want people in there without skin in the game, taking, like the Somalis in Minnesota. That was the deep state plan. Destroy cultural identity by making it seem like everything America did was awful and racist and bigoted and sure, since the 17th, they were transphobic in the 1770s. I'm sorry, what? It doesn't need to make sense. It's just word salad. There was a South Park episode where they have manatees and how they come up with a South Park episode. It's like playing Mad Libs. It was South Park making fun of how Family Guy does their episodes. But it's word salad. You just grab a couple of words from the word ball and you pop them into a thing. And it's like, oh, now I'm going to talk about this, this, and this. It doesn't need to make sense. But you do have to make the people hate themselves, hate their religion, hate their family, hate their country. Then it's overthrown. It's a quiet coup. It's the best kind of coup. It's a quiet coup. Oh, sorry about that. I don't want to make this show about me. I'm trying to stay true to you. I'm actually spending a little bit of time with you in the comments, trying to get to know you a little bit. But who is the host? My name is Bran Engelman. I'm with the New American Media. Bob has been a guest on the Agree to Disagree show and the Unhappy Hour Sports Show. And Monday through Friday on Rumble and YouTube. Please follow us. It's the TNAM Daily Show. But find the New American Media on all the platforms. Noon to 3 p.m. Eastern, noon to 2, noon to 3, depending on the news day. That's who I am. So thank you for that. Yeah, if you jumped in late, I'm like, well, how am I going to handle today's show? How will I go about explaining who I am and how I met Bob and how we ended up in this position? I'm like, well, it's not too much about me. I don't want to get into me too much. But of course, you're tuning in. You're like, who's this? Who's this fella? Who's this fella? Oh, put a banner up with your name. It's a good idea. Here, let me edit this. Yeah, I was so focused on delivering the monologue and trying to tie the stories and the news together. Here, I'll do TNAM. I thought because I put my name up as TNAM's Bran Engelman. Here we go. Thank you for that. Here we go. Jamie, why don't you go ahead and pull that up for me? Okay. Save. Show. Okay. There we go. Now save it as that and put it up. Thank you, folks. Getting used to this. Filling in for Bob France. Okay, let's rock through the rest of the comments and let's get into the news here. I'm mainly doing this because I asked you a question. Question of the day. Tell me if you went to the event, the awesome event with Bob France yesterday, AFP, etc., CVA, down in Columbus. Tell me what your takeaway was. Nowak says, event last night was great. CV4A is Concerned Veterans for America. Yep. Join Broadview Heights Republicans. Here we go, an advertisement. See, that's so nice. We can advertise Charlie's Auto Repair in Lakewood. We can advertise Mark King, Medicare Specialist. And then we can also advertise Broadview Heights Republicans, 6 p.m. tonight at Seneca Golf Course in BH for a driving range social event. Ooh, that's how you get me to an event. I want to swing that club. Oh, it's Politically Incorrect Mechanic. I remember you. Thanks for joining us today. Oh, okay, so the Bob is saying his parody is going to be called Ice Agent. And you know what I heard yesterday? President Trump was talking about changing the name of ICE to putting national in front of it, to call it nice. That's an old Adam Carolla joke from like 20 years ago. And he talks with him. He was on The Celebrity Apprentice. They're buddies. Or, you know, they're friendly. And President Trump has adopted that Adam Carolla joke from like 25 years ago. Instead of ice, which is cold, call them nice. Then they'll be happy. Oh, look at that nice agent over there. Got that 80-year-old abuelita. Well, what could she have possibly done to have a nice agent coming up to her? Well, look at these nice agents. So Ice Agent will be coming this week. Stay tuned. Big Jake says, so you're a BGSU guy? Yes. I actually went back. My buddy I lived in Los Angeles for 15 years. Yes, I did. I considered a few tours of duty. And I ended up fostering my neighbor kid at 10 years old. He needed some assistance, so he moved in with me. Anyway, he just joined the Air Force. So he's doing basic training, but before he went, he came to visit. And I took him over to Bowling Green. So we hit all the old stomping grounds, went out and checked out the stuff to eat there. Lots of them went there back when I was in high school. Yeah. Personally, I went to OSU. Yeah, go Bucks, go Buckeyes. On the Unhappy Hour, Indians, Cavs, Browns, and Buckeyes for life, baby. I'm looking around. Do I have my Buckeyes hat? Of course I do. It's up there, though. I'm not. Yeah. Politically Incorrect Mechanic. No, it was a coordinated plan. It absolutely was. Lisa's amped for the parody. Oh, yeah. Obama talked about clinging to your gut. Look, out in Pennsylvania. I believe it was Pennsylvania. I told Michelle the other day, look, those folks, a lot of those folks, they're just, you got to wait for them to wrap it up. They're clinging to their God and their guns. But look, if we flood America with a whole bunch of radical Marxists and communists, look, the politics of envy and greed are undefeated. As long as we can point at somebody that has more, they say if you point at someone, you got three fingers pointing back, but, don't pay attention to that. That's some Jedi BS. Look, we'll have this country fundamentally transformed and, give it a decade or two. And a couple of, they asked me, would you like to serve another term? And I said, look, if I could sit in the basement, maybe with a microphone and an earpiece in my sweatpants or something, watching the Chicago White Sox. I remember fondly throwing out that ball left-handed like a little girl in third grade. Like I've never thrown a baseball before in my mom jeans and my white sneakers, like I'm cutting the lawn. But look, we're going to change this country. And if that's intentional, because that's what he does when he's off teleprompter. If I could serve another term with somebody up there, at the podium, and I could tell him what to say, or her, maybe that would be kind of fun. And then he got Weekend at Bernie's Joe Biden for 4 years. You kidding me? Yeah, 4 straight 4-year terms for Barack Hussein Obama. I consider Trump's first term clipped off at the knees with the deep state. That was absolutely a Barry Soweto term. Is it Soweto or Soetoro? I think I used to say Soetoro, but I think it's Soweto. Look, it's Barack Hussein Obama. Listen here, Barry. It really doesn't matter how you pronounce your name. We just know you by your terrible policies, and at Health and Human Services, I'm working to fix some of that. Yeah, Obama did say clinging to God and guns. They're constantly looking at the past through the lenses of today. Of course, he was a good man for his time. That's a valid phrase for a reason. Yes, Bob is doing the Houston thing. Big Jake, I'm too cantankerous to die. I will be the pain for the TDS people. That's pretty great. Politically Incorrect Mechanic says, Brian, we need to teach Bob how to raid other shows on Rumble. Okay. Politically Correct Mechanic, how about this? I've thought about this. I tried to raid somebody from my show, the TNAM Daily Show, Monday through Friday, noon to 3. But I can't raid somebody. It's like you have to be connected to set it up. Now, Bob and I could probably raid each other. I don't know what button you have to click and you copy and paste a link, but I think I have to approve his ability to raid my show. And I have often thought, why don't I just do my show at 9? Bring all of Bob's people into the TNAM Daily Show. I'm still playing around with the time. For probably about 2 years, better part of 2 years, we've been at noon to 2, noon to 3, the New American Media, TNAM Daily Show. But yeah, as far as rating people, I've tried to do that, but I think you just have to be part of a network. Now, Steven Crowder, Dan Bongino, that whole crew. And by the way, if you go back on our YouTube channel, we have 15 years of videos. I mean, we've talked with I don't know, I'm trying to remember who's in the intro to our show. Yeah, we talked with Gerald, the producer, the CEO, sorry. In Milwaukee at the Republican convention. We went to Libertarian, Republican, and Democrat conventions in 24. We were live on the scene on January 6th, filming the mostly peaceful protest. We were there when the stormtroopers pushed back with tear gas, the last push forward. Had to navigate down a flight of stairs and scaffolding with blinded, while blinded from the tear gas. But yeah, anyway, point being, I believe shows like Crowder and Bongino, they have to be linked up together to raid another show. But that is a good idea. We should figure it out, and we should set it up, because I've really considered why. Because the better part of this year, the beginning part, when was it? December, January, February. I was working with Bob quite a bit to assist in figuring out the details of how do you do this? Where do you move that? How do I get this on the screen? Where do we switch that? How do we upload this? And I was like, well, why don't you just raid my show? But I've been at noon. I'm open to moving into the mornings or the evenings, but yeah, there should be a network. I wonder if Bob has a group of other presenters, maybe with shows in the morning, that could be rated. That is a great question. Politically incorrect mechanic. All right. Keep speaking the truth to the lib ears. Care good. Thanks for being here. Brian, we should all help kids instead of child protective services. Oh my God. When Ezra, the grandmother, I'll tell you the story real quick. When the grandmother, I was in Los Angeles. When I moved in, I was the only dude that looked like me. It was me and one guy with a boombox that talked to himself that would walk down. I was the only one that looked like me on the wrong side of the tracks in Los Angeles. And I knew this kid from when he was 5 years old when he moved in. And at 10 years old, his grandmother said, she was the caretaker. And she said, Brian, if anything ever happens to me, promise me you'll take care of Ezrael. I said, okay. And I mean, it was not much longer. She had a heart attack and expired. And he came banging on our door. He says, I think my grandma, and we came and couldn't revive her. She passed. And there weren't really options for him to do, like, he didn't really have a place to go. And it was either child protective services or, okay, you can stay on the couch. Give me a second. I'll go get you a futon. I'll rearrange what's going on in the office. You can sleep in the office, get you through. He was 6 months away from graduating that elementary school. And then he was going to move to a new school with new friends and new people, new building. 6 months later, I'm like, I don't want you going to East LA into some, God knows how bad child protective services can be. You know what I mean? So yeah, CPS, man, if we can all step up a little bit. I foster cats, I foster kids, I've had roommates that needed a place to land, fostered people, it's just, I don't know, that's what we're supposed to be doing, I think. See, Gunther for equal time, next time the broadcast should be from a marijuana dispensary. Hey, look at that big ruling, that big court ruling. You can't ban someone's Second Amendment protections for the right to keep and bear arms because they consume some cannabis. Are you kidding me? That's shall not be infringed. Well, unless they smoke a joint. Get out of here. Get out of here with that. That's not how this works. That was a massive ruling. I don't know if the scope was wide enough, broad enough, all encompassing. I think they said in certain circumstances, and I'll let Normal kind of parse where it says yes and where it leaves it open and ambiguous. But yeah, that's ridiculous. Have you ever known a stoner to get up and just start breaking things and fighting people? It's the drunks that do that. I've been a bartender. The reason I say I'm Brian the bartender is because I've been a bartender across the country at all sorts of establishments. And you don't see people who've taken a hit, puffed a joint, they got a bowl in their car. They don't come in throwing things and fighting with people. They're kind of chill. So yeah, Obama the clinger. Look, that you're making a dingleberry joke. Now look, I'm not gonna look. I don't want to hear any Big Mike jokes. No dingleberry jokes. I don't want to hear any trash can jokes about, what many people are saying could be, my prison if I'm found guilty of sedition and treason. Which look, all you got to do is just call me Clapper Brennan. Look, I've been pulling the puppet strings for a long time as a community agitator or organizer. They said that presidential library of mine, that would make a great prison. And President Trump, when he first got into his second term, he said, I'm going to rebuild Alcatraz. Some people said that would be a great place, kind of like a zoo to put me and Pelosi, Kinzinger, Cheney, kind of bipartisan, that maybe we should be behind plexiglass part of the tour. You're strolling through Alcatraz and they point and go, hey, look, there's Obama, and I'm looking saying, hey, you didn't build that. Alcatraz, you didn't build that. So no dingleberry jokes, no trash can jokes, no Big Mike jokes, please. Thank you very much. Sotero? I thought it was Sotero, but then I looked somewhat recently. I thought it was Soweto. Honestly, when you're using fake names, how many fake names do we need to just kind of... I always called him Barry Sotoro, but then I was like, Soweto. I read Soweto somewhere. Regardless, the guy's a sham in everything that he does. Okay. You're saying it's as easy as typing right in the chat box, paste the show link, and hit enter. It gives you 15 seconds before switching. I tried to do that, but it says the host of the other channel has to approve you to send your crowd to them. I don't know. Politically incorrect mechanics, send me a message. I would love to send our people from the TNAM Daily Show to another show. If you can help me figure out how to do it, I'd love to do it, and I'll teach Bob. Absolutely. Lois Serene, best part of AFP event was Brian Anderson. His story put things in perspective, how blessed we are to have such medical care that he survived, and whatever we whine about is nothing. Okay. Bob wants to clarify, Charlie, he's not in Houston. He's just on the air in Houston. Also, coincidentally, on breaks, he's listening to Whitney Houston. So there is that. Hold on. What is this passive aggressive awesomeness? Politically incorrect mechanic. Don't make me call in again. Please don't. Good Lord. That's funny. Shout out to Bob Maluga on board. Shimon to you. Shimon. All right, let's get to the news. We have a lot to get to, and I'm going to try to... Here we go. I got to navigate sharing the screen here. There we go. Share screen. Instagram. Pause. Checking. Add to stage. Let's go through the news. Where's the layout? How do we go side by side? Oh, no, that just disappears. I was starting to hum the song to bum 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 bum. All right, this will have to work. It's a little smaller than I would like. I'll play with the buttons, but let's scroll through the news. This is from the New American Media Instagram channel. Please follow the New American Media page on Instagram. Every day we'll put about 20, 30 stories up on the board. I'm going to censor a few of them so as not to offend the ears of our dear listeners today. But what was the deal with the
I was honestly really nervous.
Okay. This one I'm not going to play because they're cussing in it. Although on my show I would. How do we make this bigger? I want this to be bigger on the screen. Anyway, this is a clip from the Joe Rogan show. So Joe Rogan on the UFC fight at the White House. If you could handle the F-bombs, I would just play it. But Joe Rogan, I said to Trump, I hope we don't die in a terrorist attack. He goes, we got to go somehow. His response, we got to go somehow. Joe Rogan goes, what the F, dude? But he's true. He's accurate on that. He's right. We got to go somehow. So, you may never find a funnier president than President Trump. You can like or dislike his policies or his demeanor, his tone and tenor, but man, is he funny. We got to go somehow. What was the deal with the... we'll skip past Ben Swan and the Comet story about what was going on with Epstein-related revelations for reasons. I'll censor some of my content today. But this is the normal stuff we would go over on our show. All right, let's check in with Fox. An illegal alien working as a teacher in Illinois. How are illegal aliens getting hired into our schools? Make this make sense. Here's a Fox News alert. Take a listen.
National helped two alleged members of the violent Tren de Aragua gang acting as a getaway driver after a deadly house party shooting that left 3 people dead.
The 2 alleged gunmen have since been deported, but critics say Chicago's sanctuary policies allowed this suspect to slip through the cracks after local authorities released her from jail without notifying ICE. Border czar Tom Homan joins us in moments on this.
But first, senior correspondent Mike Tobin is reporting live out of Chicago. He's got the exclusive for us. Mike.
Illinois teacher accused in Tren de Aragua triple murder case.
And Sandra, Immigration and Customs Enforcement now has in custody this former Illinois high school teacher who they say assisted a Tren de Aragua mass shooting, and it gets more complicated from there. Giovanna Mercedes Moreno Ochapinte, 32 years old, first entered the U.S. in October of 2021 with the visa waiver program, but she was supposed to leave January 2nd, 2022, and she overstayed her visa.
A lot of people overstay their visas.
Skip forward to December 2nd, 2024, when the Department of Homeland Security says she drove 2 gunmen affiliated with a Venezuelan gang trying to...
Oh, it's like the Maryland man. What was he? He was mule. He was the mule. He was human trafficking, like 8 people on a Tennessee highway, and they let him go?
Aragua to a house party in the Gage Park area of Chicago where...
Yeah, let's bring some Tren de Aragua gangsters to a house party. Great idea. That's the person you want working as a teacher in Illinois.
They allegedly opened fire. 3 people were killed, several others injured. Federal authorities say Moreno Ochapinto also...
By the way, these are details coming out from the December 24 massacre. She entered the U.S. in 2021. And it's the sanctuary politicians that let her walk without calling ICE. And now it leads to this stupidity.
Helped the gunman flee the scene. Ochapinte, I should say. The 2 men she allegedly drove to the scene also helped the gunman flee the scene. Ochapinte, I should say. The 2 men she allegedly drove to the
Did that just repeat?
Scene and helped escape. Ricardo Grandio Padilla and Edward Martinez
Dude's having a hard time with all these names.
Romano have both been arrested and deported. Chicago police arrested this former teacher December 5th, 2025. Federal authorities...
And by the way, on the heels of we just had a Colorado teacher fired, what was she fired for? Why was she fired? Well, she was grading her students on best lesbian kiss. You ever hear that one? Oh, by the way, big shout out right here. You can't see it on this chat. Wait, did it come up? It didn't come up in my screen over here on StreamYard, but Patriot Warrior Texas, one of our dearly beloved regulars on the TDM Daily Show, dropped $25 virtual beer for everybody in the bar. Thank you, Patriot Warrior Texas. That's super kind to come over here and support Bob in the show. But yeah, a Colorado teacher was just fired for reenacting scenes of kissing in movies. And she would always call people up to reenact these kissing scenes. And it was always the girls, according to reports. She was grooming these kids, indoctrinating them. Join me. Be like me. I like girls kissing. Kiss in front of me. I'll grade you. And by the way, that's how this works. That's what grooming is. That's what all of this indoctrination is in the school system. We're talking about this ICE teacher, this illegal alien teacher, finally rounded up by ICE. She was fired. Of course you should be fired, unanimously fired. Then she was hired at another elementary school, but then she was fired again. How are these people getting jobs? Why shouldn't she have to stay 400 feet away from schools at all times? I'm telling you, Linda McMahon has been probably the biggest disappointment of the Trump administration. Maybe she's trying, maybe she's doing some good stuff, but my God, it's not happening fast enough. We are losing the kids. They're being actively groomed and manipulated and brainwashed to hate themselves, hate this country. And then you got them. Then you got deep state Democrats for life. I swear, our schools are an absolute mess. If you have the means to homeschool and get the kids enrolled in some sports where they can get, social interaction, and man, keep them out of these public schools with all this craziness going on.
You say she had weapons in her car at the time of the arrest.
National help.
All right, well, that was a weird place for that story to end, but you get it. Illegal alien working as a teacher in Illinois drove 2 Tren de Aragua gunmen to a Chicago house party where they opened fire killing 3, injuring 5. So good job. Thanks for that. He cusses in here. I'll scroll to this report. Did you see Montreal?
So this is breaking right now. This is coming out of Montreal, Canada, as of this morning at 11:35 local time. Montreal police say they responded to shots fired near Des Courtrai and the Trans Island Avenues. This is reportedly in a place called Côte des Neiges in, again, Montreal. And what happened is what you'll see an armed suspect dressed in camouflage, kind of utility clothing, was opening fire on responding officers, and what a lot of people online are really describing as an ambush. So far, the casualty count is 3. There was 1 police officer who was killed in the line of duty. A second officer, a female, who is apparently now in stable condition, was critically injured. But again, the latest is that she's stable. And what you'll also...
So that story is horrific. That part's like, oh, geez. You know, unfortunately, you see far too many of these instances all the time. But...
see in this video is that 1 civilian lost their life.
It's calling into question the role of females in combat roles. For decades, we've been told there's no difference. A firefighter that, geez, what's that one clip? The lady in California? Well, we have lady firefighters, we have men firefighters. Can they lift and carry the same amount of weight? Well, you know, there's different standards for females with males. It's like, well, how are you going to carry a human down a 2nd floor of a house? And she laughs and says, well, if he's inside a burning house on the 2nd floor, he's got bigger problems than that. Like laughing it off like it's not relevant. A lot of people are calling into question whether female police officers or firefighters should be the first responders. This video is just horrific. And it's not to say a man couldn't have done the same thing, but this civilian is trying to get out of the situation. She turns and blows him away. Point blank range.
They were caught in the crossfire. The suspect himself was shot and killed at the scene, and the police are saying that as of now, he acted alone. There are people claiming that this was an act of terrorism.
They're saying it's a Jewish neighborhood, maybe.
We don't really have any more evidence beyond just what all has happened here.
And there's a 72-hour rule. Anytime something happens, we don't know anything for 72 hours. That's just kind of how it goes.
Don't have any other details regarding, you know, why this might have happened or the motive or ideologies that might have driven this attack. The entire story is really tragic, but one of the main things that I think just adds to this tragedy is that within the video, you can see that the civilian who died was almost certainly hit by one of the female officers. And if you actually look at it, she's kind of pinned, she's behind a barricade, actively getting shot at by the actual assailant. He's, you know, maneuvering up on her, trying to get into position. And then there's a civilian who is in the middle of this, who is, you know, stuck right next to her, who pops up and I guess he startles her. And in that split second, she fires, I guess.
And that just shows you just how much trigger discipline Kyle Rittenhouse had. I watched that frame by frame, second by second. Amazing trigger discipline that Kyle Rittenhouse showed when he was attacked by all those Antifa Democrat deep state goons all those years ago now at this point. I mean, it was like out of a Jason Bourne movie. How could you have such trigger discipline when your adrenaline's running, your heart's pumping super fast? But this lady did not respond well under pressure, did the exact opposite of Rittenhouse.
Just not knowing whether if it's, you know, the attacker or not.
And, you know, it's like that scene in Men in Black. They're at the shooting range and Will Smith is there and he's not shooting anyone, not shooting anyone, not shooting anyone. They're popping up aliens. And then a little girl pops up and he blasts her. They go, hold on, stop. Why'd you ignore all the aliens and shoot him? He goes, no, the aliens are just minding their own business. That guy's over there talking on the phone. He's over there eating a sandwich. He's hanging out there talking to his friend, like tying his shoe. They're not causing anyone harm. But this girl, this little white girl in the hood with advanced calculus books in her hands, something's up with her. Something's wrong with her. That's why I shot her. Split-second decision, and this lady definitely failed.
That civilian ended up losing his life. Again, this is allegedly what happened. I mean, you can watch the video for yourself. And
yeah, and you know, they're not going to show the clip in this, but it's available on X. Take a look if you want.
This is,
but yeah,
JD Vance about Israel opposing the memorandum of understanding. Let's take a listen. I think JD Vance has, I don't know if they've officially rolled him out as the 2028 presidential candidate, but he's doing a pretty good job. He seems presidential. He's very well spoken. And it's off the cuff. It's not teleprompter stuff. But anyway, JD Vance discussing Israel and the memorandum of understanding. What does he think about what's going on there? Because Israel is really, just listen to JD.
Yeah, you've seen people in their system, Ben Gvir and Smotrich, who've attacked the deal. And I guess my response to them would be, what is your exact proposal? And, you're a country of 9 million people. You can't just kill your way out of solving every single national security problem that you have. Look at
So you're seeing a bit of a change in the public comments from both President Trump and J.D. Vance regarding Israel. There's a segment of America that says Israel is the most important thing on earth. There's a segment of America that says, I don't care about Israel. In fact, they're the cause of all the problems. And then there's some people that say, whatever, Israel be Israel, but I don't want a single dollar of our blood and treasure being spilled over there. I'm so sick of it. Pull out of the Middle East completely. Then there's other people, there's a pie chart. There's a grab bag of opinions on it, but you can definitely see that the public comments from the Trump administration have changed toward Israel, coming on the heels of them being accused of causing a whole bunch of problems and continuing the conflict where we're trying to sort out a peace arrangement. You tell me in the comments if you have thoughts on that. I'm not going to go in the weeds on it. Let's check in with Congressman Brandon Gill. This is another rising superstar in the MAGA party, and it's the MAGA party. Can we stop calling them Republicans? I'm not a big fan of Republicans personally. I'm a fan of MAGA in concept. I often used to say the only thing worse than a Republican is a Democrat, but by far. And I only say that because you have Liz Cheney, Mitt Romney, Mitch McConnell, John Thune, Kevin McCarthy, all these fake Republicans that give you a sense of, hey, he's one of us. He's going to fight for us. Bull stuff. Censored myself again. The fake Republicans that have just infiltrated and been rotting that party away. The deep state, the uniparty, two wings of the same dirty bird. Those Republicans I have zero interest in. The new batch of Republicans, I like this Brandon Gill fella. He has a quote here saying, we can either stop Islamic immigration now or our children will pay the price, just like the working class girls in Great Britain did. We covered it at length yesterday, and I think the week before we went into the report of the Pakistani Islamic supremacist grooming gangs that brutalized somewhere between 250 and 400,000 white British, indigenous British citizens. And we got to start using the right vernacular. It's not an undocumented, it's an illegal alien. It's an illegal alien invader. You either come to the front door of my bar here and we check your ID, you pay the $10 cover charge and we know who you are, or you're an illegally present invader of my club that propped open the back door. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you have in your pockets. And I don't know if you're on my list up there of do not serve this person ever because you've caused problems on the street. I have every right as an owner of this bar to demand those things, just like every American, every citizen of every country on earth has a right to know of who's coming in, what baggage they're bringing with them, and why. What is your purpose here? What's the point? Well, no, man, you gotta be libertarian on everything, dude. Like, you can't have borders. You can't, Yes, you can, and you must, or else there is no nation. Hence, what the Democrats and the rhinos are doing, because they don't want nations. They don't want national sovereignty. They want one homogenized shade of gray, some gloopy little mess. That's what they want. Strip your rights, strip your liberties, strip your freedoms. Everybody's the same. There's no difference from, look, if I go to Minneapolis and find 100 Somalis stealing fake daycare, fake autism money, there's no difference if I go to Columbus and find 100 Buckeye fans. They're like the same because they're humans, man. Okay, deep state, I reject your thesis. I reject your hypothesis, and I'm going to raise you some common sense. Brandon Gill is just raising the warning that if you don't want to be brutalized by a group of people that show up to conquer your nation, this is not pretend. Every week we play these videos on the T-Dam Daily Show. In their own words, it's a caliphate to take over everything across the globe. To show up, your goal is not to assimilate, it's to conquer and dominate. So, do you want to be like Great Britain, who has been invaded by Islamic, what do you call them, Trojan horses, military-aged fighting men? Pakistani grooming gangs of Islamic supremacists that are specifically targeting, grooming, and brutalizing, torturing Indigenous British. Say Indigenous Americans. Say Indigenous British. Well, no, Indigenous means Native Americans. Native Americans were nomadic. They came over the Bering Land Strait. They're from Russia. Once again, like in the comments, we're going back to Ukraine. Ukraine is weak. I know that's Kamchatka, but I'm going back to my Risk days. You either have a nation or you don't. And the globalists of Soros, the Democrat deep state demons, they don't want a place where we have Second Amendment rights. Look how the people of Great Britain have been brutalized. Henry Nowak, I've been stabbed. I can't breathe. I don't think you have, mate. Some crazy person still waiting to get the full details throws a 3-year-old into a crocodile enclosure where it gets attacked. Stable condition, by the way, is the update there. Probably, health problems, for broken hip, broken leg, other issues, perhaps. I mean, Great Britain, there was a mentally disabled person beaten on the ground, and you had an Islamic invader sawing off his head in the streets. The dude already had hearing disabilities in England, the victim in that case. That was last week, 2 weeks ago. I can't even keep up with all the abuse of Indigenous British. They are being targeted and brutalized. All of these stories coming out right around the time Rupert Lowe in that report says 250 to 400,000 Indigenous British targeted for being white Christian girls, white Christian British girls. Oh, it's haram. Our book says we can do that. We can take slaves. We can. So Brandon Gill's pointing out, either we stop Islamic supremacist, call it Islamic supremacist. How many years under Joe Biden and Barack Hussein Obama did you hear white supremacist, white supremacist? Have I ever met a white supremacist? Have I ever been to a white supremacist event? Oh, the KKK. What KKK? If the SPLC? Oh, I saw a nice media asset here. Socialists pushing leftist crap. SPLC. Masking agenda, dividing America. Expose the bias and reject the propaganda. It's a nice little media asset that Bob France left for me here. Socialist pushing leftist crap. SPLC. And if you don't have the SPLC funding the KKK, it's like dinosaurs or leprechauns. I've never met one. I've never seen an event. What are we talking about? It's because they're just trying to break you down and make you feel guilt and shame for stuff. That's the third time I've caught my language. I'm keeping a tally on. I got a chalkboard over here like Glenn Beck. Now, if you look over here, Acorn. Love Glenn Beck. Love the chalkboard too. They are trying to make us feel guilty and afraid to speak. I believe Great Britain leads the world in kidnapping you for things you type online. That is an absolutely conquered nation. I'm telling you, replacing Keir Starmer with the next idiot from that same party does nothing. They're saying general elections now. No, we don't want to swap Joe Biden with Kamala. We need a general election now. You've resigned for a reason, because our Indigenous British are being savage and brutalized, and you're arresting us when we point out what's happening. Remember, that's the hellscape we were living under with Joe Biden, former Vice President Joe Biden. It ramped up during the first term of Obama, definitely ramped up in the second term of Obama. And when the deep state was taking out Trump, that was definitely happening too. So it's all connected. How do I click on this? Go full screen, mute the music. Let's do some contrast here. Jason Bassler says, 2020, you need to stop using plastic straws. Look, climate change is the greatest threat to humanity. Remember that? Let's cut to 2026. Anyway, here's a 62 square mile AI data center. Yep. You're worried about a straw in the nose of a turtle? Anyway, here's a 62 square mile AI data center. For many of the viewers watching today, strictly speaking, Unfiltered with Bob France, hit the thumbs up button, by the way. Subscribe, share the show with a friend. Invite somebody in today, please. Share the show link. Although they'll get a different show today than usual, but it's okay. Pushing for the concept of freedom and liberty. A lot of these massive 62 square mile or similar AI data centers coming to a former farmland near you in Northeast Ohio. So buckle up, buttercups. It's just so interesting how the whole narrative is about one thing, but then, yep, let's just totally flip that upside down the next day. Very disingenuous, but it's telling, and it's appropriately pointed out. This woman reaches into a reflecting pool, then gets detained over here in Washington, D.C. 2-minute clip from Town Hall. Not going to play it. Let's go to conspiracy theory nut. We were talking about Tulsi Gabbard. Let's kind of break this down. How do we go full screen so you can see this? I thought there were better ways to put the screen up where I could slide it over and you could see both of us. I'm learning. But let's listen to the declassified. All right, let's listen to this post and tell me if you agree or disagree. Tulsi Gabbard just released documents raising the question millions were mocked for asking. Did Fauci help fund the research for COVID? Then help shape the narrative on COVID, and then deny what he knew under oath about COVID. Lab leak voices were silenced. By the way, let me just jump in on lab leak voices were silenced. I don't call it a lab leak. Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. Our words matter. Our vernacular matters. It's Islamic supremacists when we're talking about the true fighters, the true people trying to conquer and dominate, not assimilate. They're indigenous British, indigenous Americans. We're born here. Our family's from here. We're indigenous to here. And you don't get to strip us of that. White supremacist, Islamic supremacist. You could have anybody be supremacist. Doesn't only apply to people that look like me. I'm tired of the narratives. Change the vernacular, change the culture, change the future. But when they say lab leak, you know, I watched a clip, Benny Johnson talking with Rand Paul yesterday, and he's talking about the lab leak. I said, no. The grand conspiracy, there's a puzzle piece in there that may or may not fit. And I'm not claiming to have evidence that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that's been proven in a court of law. You know, YouTube used to take you down for saying stuff like that. So we'd say, for additional, I used to have a disclaimer that I'll pull up on my show, on the TNAM Daily Show. For countervailing views on anything regarding health or elections, go to cdc.gov, who.int, and cisa.gov/rumor control to get your countervailing views on whatever rubbish I might have just said. Because they got to keep pushing their fake narrative. They call it truth, and they're in charge. We've been shadow banned, censored, demonetized, depersoned, deplatformed. Everything that you could imagine happened to me personally on Facebook, Instagram, Google, YouTube, Twitter, X, the New American Media. 15 years we've been doing this, and we have been stifled, shadow banned, demonetized. I mean, we're still fighting, but they've been at it hardcore. Point being, it's not a lab leak. We don't know that it's a lab leak. Don't you dare give Fauci, the deep state, the grand conspiracy perpetrators, and China. But Sarah, why do you call it the China virus? Because it comes from China. Funniest president ever. Even when he's just trying to be specific, he's unintentionally hilarious. Don't call it a lab leak. I call it a potentially intentional lab release. When you start to slip in, or you're typing in a comment, oh, the lab leak from China, the lab leak. No, the potentially intentional. You're being super honest. It's potentially intentional. Because if the grand conspiracy was to shut the country down, tank the economy, make everyone hate Trump, and by the way, now we're getting all these mail-in ballots, this is going to be a walk in the cake, as Yogi Berra would say. This is going to be super easy with all of our hundreds of thousands of phantom homeless voters signed up on the voter rolls in Los Angeles. James O'Keefe exposing this. O'Keefe Media Group, all sorts of people exposing these phantom homeless votes. Thousands of people registered to singular addresses. People that have died or moved out of the state decades ago, they're still getting ballots. Oh no, we got to print a ballot for every person. And then you keep those and you fill them in, and then you deliver them to drop boxes with mules. Sure. So my point is, I'm caught in the minutia, but it's super important. It's not a lab leak. It's a potentially intentional lab release. You don't think China wanted to get Trump out of the way? What has Trump done? President Trump. For those of you in Rio Linda, California, it's President Trump. I miss El Rushbo. Now you don't have Venezuelan and Iranian oil hitting the black market. Cheap, cheap, cheap. Helping fuel China's economic boom of industry. Industrial has, combining words there. It's going to go a different direction. Fueling their cheap manufacturing in China. Well, now they're not getting their stolen, embargoed, embattled black market oil at a discount. It's a discount because the Iranians, Venezuela, they can't sell it at other places. So, hey, if it's worth $100, it's rotting in my hand. I'll sell it to you for 60. China goes, make it 40. Go, how about we meet at 50? So they're undercutting American manufacturing while they're stealing our intellectual properties. That's a huge issue over there, for a topic for another day. On top of employing slave labor. How are we going to compete with making t-shirts or widgets when you got literal slave labor in China using embargoed black market oil? You don't think China had a vested interest in making sure President Trump stayed the hell away from the White House? By the way, if I say hell, that doesn't count on the chalkboard because that's an allowable PG-13 term. I've made allowances with that. Anyway, it's a fine detail, but I think it's important. He says lab leak voices were silenced. Analysts were pressured. Whistleblowers were punished under Fauci. Media called it a conspiracy about COVID and the origins. But now the paper trail is coming out. So here's the real question, asks conspiracy theory nut. If these documents prove federal officials misled Congress and the American people, which they did, who gets prosecuted? Because oops doesn't cover 1 million dead Americans. Documents being released. Fauci funded the Wuhan lab research that sparked COVID. Fauci did this. He was not allowed to do this, so he offshored it. Remember the rendition programs of torture in Northern Africa? Remember that one? Rendition? Well, we don't torture in America. Yeah, but you're paying the CIA offshoot groups in Northern Africa to torture for you. Hence, you're torturing them. You can't hire a hitman and go, I never killed anybody. You paid the person and told them to do it. Yes, you did it. If the getaway driver gets busted at a bank robbery where someone shot and killed, of course the perpetrators should be held liable for this. So, I mean, it is my Inigo Montoya from A Princess Bride. Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my brother. Prepare to die. Only if being found guilty by a jury of his peers or a military tribunal or court-martial. Not a court-martial. Military tribunal, crimes against humanity, Nuremberg style, war crimes, crimes against humanity, hearing. Yeah. Every day I pray that Fauci is going to face justice for what he did. Let's move along. Don't need to beat that subject into the ground. Daily Wire says the UK, guess what? They've approved puberty blockers for 11-year-olds because they hate you. If you can't consent to sex until you're 7, or I don't know, different countries have 16, 17, 18. Call it 18. No, you can't consent to sex until you're 18. You can't get a driver's license until you're 16. You can't be in the military till you're 18. You can't do this or that without a special exemption, whatever. Sure, but let's let impressionable youth who have been trying to please dear teacher. Oh, I want a good grade. I don't want to get in trouble at home. You're what? Oh, you're giving extra credit if I go up and reenact this scene from Romeo and Juliet, except this time it's Juliet and Juliet. Well, I want good grades. I want to please teacher, don't I? Impressionable kids aren't able to get face tattoos. They're not able to ask a doctor to take their arm off because they feel like they were born in the wrong body, but they're going to give puberty blockers to someone who hasn't fully developed or figured out what they are yet. That is criminal abuse, in my opinion. But the UK approves the puberty blockers, according to Daily Wire, for 11-year-olds. But guess what? They ban social media if you're under 16. You know why? They don't want you to know how much you're being abused. Great Britain gave up their guns, their ability to defend themselves, and they've been conquered. They've been invaded, their lands have been pillaged, and their indigenous British have been the targets. Make no mistake about it. Daily Mail says Brits are caught up in a terrifying night of violence as the French music festival descends into stabbings and rapes with multiple women stabbed with syringes. That feels
and I will do
directly out of the playbook. We've seen this before. I believe we've seen this before. Police arrested 243 people nationwide, 148 in Paris, despite deploying nearly 5,000 officers, and they barely did anything. So that's going on. Let's try to figure out who's out there stabbing people with syringes. Would you like to take a guess? Tell me in chat. Nah, maybe we shouldn't say in chat. Go ahead. Guess in chat. Usual suspects, whoever they are. Anyway, let's see if we get some more information about this absolute chaos in France. Why did it turn violent? Who was stabbing people with syringes? Well, you know. Who would know? I didn't pre-scan this, but his point here, after watching Keir Starmer resign, he's basically saying this is Asmongood. I watch some of his stuff sometimes. And he says the left-wing governments, the entire world is just done with them right now. As I told you, 0 for 7. The deep state. The deep state demons are now 0 for 7. Trump-backed candidates are 7-0. Now, they might not all be specifically Trump-backed, but you either got people abusing the indigenous people of those nations, you know, plundering and looting every resource and making you live in squalor and crime, keep you pushed down a little bit. You know, we don't want you to get a little too uppity. Look, I told Michelle the other day, Americans have had it a little too good for a little too long. Americans full of pride, I look at them and say, look, as Jeremiah Wright said, it's not God bless America, it's God damn America. That's what my religious leader said. I got the little red schoolhouse leaders. I got the Indonesian teachers. I got a lot of teachers in my life. Frank Marshall Davis being one of them. But look, Americans that are proud of America, look, I tell them, you didn't build that. Sure seems like this hemisphere is done with the deep state demons who are abusing the indigenous people of these nations. So that's the point of this video. There's music here, so I got to pause it halfway through.
You want to know
how we save the country, says Charlie Kirk. And man, do I miss him. How do we save the country?
we save the country? We raise more good people.
That's it. How do you save the country? You raise more good people. You got to create them to raise them.
If we raise more good people than bad people, more righteous people, people that love the Lord and love liberty and love our nation.
Got to keep pausing it because there's random music in the background. I wish wasn't there. I wish there's a button I could click and take the music out because I don't need a copyright strike. But people that love our nation,
then we win.
Yeah, that's how we
It's simple math.
And how do you destroy a nation? You import people who are going to take and not contribute, people who don't love America, people who are not indigenous. They don't share our values. Somalia is the biggest pirate job you've seen. Now, I know I started the show off talking about Jacob D. Haven, my pirate lineage in the family tree. There's good piracy and there's bad piracy. See, the Barbary pirates that caused Thomas Jefferson, President Jefferson, to start the U.S. Navy to go stop the Somalis, or the Barbary pirates off the coast of Africa that were robbing the merchant ships. There's takers and there's creators. Deep state wants takers because then they got you under their thumb. We pay you. Come on. You want to keep getting free money, right? We'll go out there in the streets. Let's tear down the things. Let's burn the things. Let's attack the bad guys. And somebody sure attacked Charlie Kirk. But if you want to know how we save the country, we raise more good people. And it's just sort of lost on us. Charlie Kirk just doesn't seem normal, doesn't seem natural. It doesn't seem, it doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem tangible. If you watch the TNAM Daily Show, noon to 3 Eastern, coming up on YouTube and Rumble here at the New American Media, I had a chance to meet Charlie Kirk. He had 0 seconds to spare. I literally caught him exiting the restroom to walk into the room with a sold-out ballroom event of people going bonkers. He had 0 seconds to spare. So, of course, he gave me 20 seconds and a soundbite. You know, Charlie Kirk was famous for never turning down an interview. It's very smart. You know, when I had a couple moments with Tim Pool and Joe Rogan, they failed the Charlie Kirk test. They don't owe me anything. That's fine. They had a lot on their minds. They were working. They were doing their things. That's fine. I talked to Rogan outside of an event in Los Angeles where he was going in to perform stand-up. I talked to Tim Pool at that same event, actually. But they were cold and didn't have, not to badmouth. Like I said, they don't owe me anything. That's fine. But Charlie Kirk didn't owe me anything, and he gave me 20 seconds in a soundbite. And that dude, regardless of what you want to say about the direction of Turning Point USA, questions about the alleged shooter, the lapel. Well, the lapel on the heels of the exploding pagers, and it makes you think. And you've seen the analysis where the ripples on the shirt, it looks like all the kinetic energy started from the chest in that area, and you don't know. And you couldn't find the exit wound because there was none, because it was a magic bullet, and it was a 30-06, and it's a rhinoceros gun, and it would have blown a hole in the side of the building. But nope, it just traveled in his body. No exit wound. Okay. You can have questions about all those things. And it's fair to question, and it's fair to do all those things. I would want somebody turning over every stone if something happened to me. But what we lose in the process of TPUSA, Erica Kirk, what happened was that trans Tifa person, was he the one that really did it? There's 2 kids that don't have their dad anymore, you know? And that's so messed up. That should give us a little bit of extra motivation to make sure that we're fighting each and every day to tamp down the evil. Anyway, on the heels of Father's Day, just wanted to share that.
You want to know?
Turns out
What do we got here?
UFC at the White House.
Here, there might be language in this. I don't know, because on my show I just play it and I don't care, because they're talking about UFC. Whatever. Here's an Aussie reacting to UFC at the White House. Fingers crossed, it's kosher.
Fucking rips, dude.
Okay. Okay. It rips. Turns out it was the sickest thing ever. They had a flyover as they were doing the anthem, bro. Turns out it does rule. That UFC event was awesome. Do it again. It's like they brought the Super Bowl there. And a lot of the world hates America. Like, yo, we're the best. We're the best. And people are like, no, you're not. And then Aussies and other people, I'm translating. I'm doing the translation. Maybe I'll do that if I don't know if there's going to be cussing in the content. The world hates that we're so braggadocious and we're like, America, 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 we're the best. It's like, whatever. And then you see something as awesome as the UFC on the lawn. It's like, they're right. This does rule. This is so cool. It was awesome. And I agree. I agree completely. Okay, a couple things here. Howard Lutnick announces the U.S. government will be fully implementing Q, quantum computing. Q, if you know, you know. What? Howard Lutnick announces the U.S. government is fully implementing Q, quantum computing, according to Shadow of Ezra, with $2 billion in taxpayer funding. Quote, once we have quantum chips, we have to protect everyone in this government to make sure all of us are protected and defended. Okay. I'm not going to play you the clip. Keep it rolling, but you should know that that's happening. Let's check in on President Trump. We have a foreign-born judge named Sparkle Sukna. Sha-na-na-na. Okay. We have a foreign-born judge named Sparkle Sukna. Foreign-born Biden Judge Sparkle. Yes, that's her actual name. Just barred the Trump administration from checking citizenship data for voters, per the Associated Press.
Mr. President, on the Safe America Act, you are now urging Republicans to add that to this third reconciliation bill. Yeah. What's your perspective on why election integrity matters so much for national security from your perspective?
Well, we need it for our elections. We need to have voter identification, which you don't have right now on a national basis. We need it for, and the voter ID is very important. We need it for proof of citizenship. Do you believe it? The Democrats are fighting. They don't want you to prove your citizenship.
Oh, yes, we believe it. because it's a scam. Every illegal alien invader, Trojan horse, Manchurian candidate, pre-positioned across the country, perhaps as a sleeper cell waiting to be activated when they get a text on their Obama phones. Remember the Obama phone? Of course the Democrats want this. They're polling at about 17 to 19% approval rating. Nobody likes you. Everybody hates you. I guess you'll go eat worms. You ever sing that song as a kid? I don't even know where it came from, but it's stuck in my head somewhere. Nobody likes them. Everybody hates them. So let's import tens of millions. I think up to 40 million. 40 million is the number that I use. So I think they say, we know of 20 to 30. Well, then it's got to be 40. Because the whole nature of this is trying to avoid detection in the first place, you dopes. So Trump says, can you believe it? These Democrats, they want to let everybody in and block us finding out. Are they even citizens?
When you vote. You know why they want that? Because they cheat. And we also want it mail-in voting, where you have people that are sent 7, 8 ballots, 2 ballots, 4 ballots.
And I've been in Los Angeles with somebody else, and they were handed the wrong ballot of somebody that used to live at my domicile. They don't care. They don't check. It is intentionally sloppy. In the computing world of design and building apps and whatnot, it's not a bug. It's a feature. It's not a glitch that's causing it. We're doing this intentionally. It's a feature. We built it to be this way. So it's intentionally complex, convoluted, hidden, so they can get away with things. And I would always do this on the TNM Daily Show. I'd put this up to my head and say, well, to go find countervailing views on anything regarding health, COVID-19 vaccines, or the election of 2020 specifically, go to CISA.gov/rumor control, CISA.gov/rumor control, WHO.int, and what was the other one? Anyway, you get the point. If I didn't say these things, they would take your video down and they would give your video a strike to delete you from the internet. Just like the Brits are being punished for speaking up, the indigenous British are speaking up and they're being punished. They're being punished more than the illegal alien invaders. Make that make sense. But yeah, President Trump, yes, we can believe that they're doing that. It's not a bug. It's a feature of keeping a sloppy system available to cheat and maybe get away with it.
And a lot of them sign those ballots, mail-in voting, and we want to be very judicious. If you're in the military and you're far away, or if you're handicapped, or if you're sick, or if you're on vacation, that you have but you're not going to millions and millions. Look at
millions and millions. He likes to say billions and billions. I think he spells it Biyyyyonz. Billions and billions, millions and millions, Miyyons, millions and billions.
In California, they send out millions of ballots.
Thank you. It's so much more effective when you do it right after I did it. It sounded identical.
It's tens of millions. They have no idea what's going on. Those elections are so corrupt. So,
Mr. President,
all right, let's see if we can save America with the Save America Act. And by the way, can somebody please explain to me why Leader Thune hasn't had 5 votes to replace him? That's the only thing that makes me hopeful, gives me a little bit of hope that, you got to have hope. That's the only thing that gives me a little bit of hope that there's some sort of a plan. I hate hearing trust the plan. That's just some BS. 4, I'll put that on the chalkboard. That's just some BS. They tell you to just sit it out. We're working on it. We got this under control. Go back to sleep, says Maynard James Keenan in the song Pet by A Perfect Circle. Great song about swinging to the rhythm of the New World Order. Check out Pet by A Perfect Circle. But that's what they want. They want you to go back to sleep. They don't want you thinking about this stuff. And trust the plan. It's like, someone's on it. What do I have to do? No. It's everything's burning. You can smell the smoke. You have to do everything right now that you can. As Reagan said, freedom is not a birthright that passes on to the next generation through the blood. So let's peacefully and patriotically fight like hell, shall we? Okay, this just in. The Major League Baseball commissioner has said that the Giants players will not be disciplined over Bible verses put onto pride hats. Josh Hawley, another good one, says MLB commissioner writes to me and admits that they were wrong to threaten the Giants players over Bible verses and promises never to fine or discipline these players or any players for their religious beliefs. The sports leagues went bonkers as part of the Summer of Love riots that burned America down. While Fauci was lying about the COVID origins, the potential efficacy of therapeutic options like hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, and monoclonal antibodies. You sons of bees. All right, I got 5 on the board there. The sports leagues went bonkers. End hate, racism is bad, white people are bad, America's bad. And even though they weren't saying some of those things, they were absolutely saying some of those things. Nike, ESPN, Disney, ABC. Oh, yeah. The Jimmy Kimmels and the ESPNs pushing their agendas. All the sports leagues wearing stuff on their hats, painting stuff in the end zones because Colin Kaepernick, who was a aging running quarterback in the pistol formation, they did, what was it called? The pistol offense. He got older and slower. The league figured out how to properly defend him. He started to play like crap. He was replaced by Blaine Gabbert. So since he couldn't sign a deal for 100, 200 million like he was hoping, he grew out his afro and said, this country sucks. I'm going to take a knee. And everybody bought into it. And that energy pushed the George Floyd, Summer of Love, Democrat, deep state, burn it all down tactics to remove President Trump from office. All on the heels of COVID, keeping everybody stir crazy, out of work, angry, while the big blue cities were not prosecuting, not arresting, not stopping the invading horde of the Democrat army, the brown shirts, the political violence they wanted. So anyway, in a rare win for Major League Baseball, by the way, you want to really win? Return my Cleveland Indians. I have a batting helmet right here somewhere. I'm looking for it. Oh, it's right there. I'm not going to reach, but it's return my Cleveland Indians. That was sacrificed at the altar of the woke gods during that agenda too. That's the type of stuff I talk about on the Unhappy Hour Sports Show, of course. Let's keep it rolling. Here's a nice quote. Marcus Aurelius. Why all this guesswork? And by the way, I will admit I did not look up the veracity of this quote. It could be misattributed, but a good quote's a good quote regardless. Why all this guesswork? You can see what needs to be done. If you can see the road, follow it. If you can see the road, follow it. Come on, Patriots. You saw the road down to Columbus. Go hang out with Bob France and all those other great Patriots. Make connections. By the way, it's weird when I put, there's a timer on this. I put up the banner, but it keeps disappearing. I'm like, I didn't take this down. Okay, I'm learning. And who knows, if you've enjoyed me as a guest host, maybe I could fill in a second time. And in that case, I'll know how to operate these control panels. This is my first time using StreamYard, by the way. So thanks for having me. I do appreciate it. Anyway, I'm learning. It's a great quote. Why all this guesswork? You can see what needs to be done. If you can see the road, follow it. Marcus Aurelius. Iran leaves a note of thanks in the Los Angeles locker room, thanking Los Angeles for hospitality during the World Cup and saying they are leaving with dignity after a 0-0 draw with Belgium, keeping alive their hopes of reaching the knockout stages. LA hosted both of Iran's Group G matches so far, with the team returning to their base in Tijuana, Mexico, between games. Iran has spent the tournament based in Tijuana, commuting to the U.S. for their matches because of restrictions surrounding their stay in the country, while a number of Iran's team staff and officials have been banned from the event. I did a show with Mahmoud Ghaffari and Pastor Bruce Engelman, my uncle, the pastor and historian, speaker, etc., a few months ago, right as the efforts in Iran started. You know, and we talked about it. There are so many great people in Iran. We shouldn't look at Iran and go, I hate everybody from there. Like, stop. Like, that's not really how this works. I mean, that used to be a Christian nation. There's a large Christian contingent. I mean, largely pushed underground for the past 47 years for obvious reasons. But there's a lot of great people over there that do not want to see the Islamic regime of Iran stay in charge. And that's been, frankly, one of the biggest complaints and criticisms of the Trump Hegseth plan to decimate the military of Iran. Well, why are we negotiating with Islamic Republic? Who's next? If we don't change the Islamic Republic, we're going to be right back in the same spot 47 years from now or 4.5 days from now. If you don't change the operating system, your computer's always going to have glitches. They're features, not bugs. Sorry, I'm working multiple stories in here at once, but you get the point. So, you know, I pray for the great people of Iran. They say that step number 2 is, and I think they've already been unloading arms to the people in Iran to overthrow the government, because the other criticism when the U.S. gets involved in anything is, why are we doing nation building? Why are we doing nation building? Hillary, we came, we saw, he died. Remember that one about Gaddafi? That wasn't nation building so much as maybe Iraq, maybe Afghanistan, and turns into multi-decade quagmires. You don't want that either. But anyway, World Cup has some interesting side storyline. Checking back on Britain.
Oh, okay, this is really cool. So, breaking news from Inevitable West. The Green Party led Bristol City Council, which banned these St. George flags flying during the World Cup as it was divisive and makes migrants feel uncomfortable, has now been covered in St. George flags by the locals. F the Greens, this is England. This is absolutely amazing. Even though I'm an American, like, you should have pride in your own country. You should be able to fly whatever flag you want, especially if it's your nation's flag. And this is what we need to do here in the United States. Is
let your freak flag fly. I can't believe I said that properly.
The America's 250th anniversary of becoming an independent nation. Fly proud. Let them call you what they will. But you know what? We love our country and they love their country too. So let's go.
Exactly. And there's been an argument made that maybe the great people of Britain need a regime change much more than Iran. Maybe you'll agree or disagree, but my God, those people are subjected to just torture. They're being absolutely brutalized. And it's not just England. It's all of Europe. And you're seeing election after election, especially now, since U.S. aid has run out, that river is no longer flowing to the deep state. The Patriots, who are probably 80% of their country, 19% approval rating for the deep state demons that want to destroy them, they're taking over and they're sending the invading horde back to wherever they came from. I don't care if they're invading from Antarctica. Although, have you ever dug into Antarctica? There's a lot of stories about that. I don't care if they're coming from Canada or Mexico. I don't care if they're coming from Australia or Cape Horn. I don't care if they're from Russia or Israel. I don't care where you're from. Go back. Go back. This is a college admission, and we should have the same protocols. That's what we're supposed to have. High standards. What are you bringing to the table? Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. Are the Minnesota Somalis contributing to the country, or are they taking? Are the Islamic invaders that want to build their fancy private cities to expand, isolate, create no-go zones, and expand Sharia? Are they assimilating? Are they bringing something to the table? Or are they trying to come in and conquer and change us? Well, you have to be able to ask these questions publicly. You have to ask these questions out loud without fear of retribution. Don't forget about how dark the world was under Biden, Obama's third or fourth term, however you're counting. Demonetized, censored, deleted, shadow banned, silenced in the public square, the digital public square, because of wrongthink. Read 1984. Anyway, there's that. The Real State of America says just 2 days after Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard's declassification showing Fauci helped fund gain-of-function research and later conspired with the intelligence community to conceal the origins of COVID-19, The Washington Post published a smear piece on Gabbard while remaining silent on the cover-up. Shocking. Color me shocked. Here's what it's like realizing that 7 far-right candidates have won in Latin America since USAID was defunded. I gotta mute it, but ooh, take it in, that fresh breeze. That's how it feels. Realizing 7 far-right candidates have won in Latin America, undefeated since USAID was defunded. It's almost like they were reaching into your wallet and your pockets and stealing your money to fund your enemies the whole time. Shut the spigot of funding off, and your enemies will wither on the vine. Just a couple more things, and I'll get rolling here. I could do this show for another couple hours, and you know what? In fact, I will at noon. Everybody, if you could take a second, go to the New American Media, subscribe to the channel on Rumble, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, on X, we're at American_media_. These stories and more, we do our show daily, Monday through Friday, along with special episodes of The Unhappy Hour, The Agree to Disagree Show, Strictly Football. I do that show during football season as well. Please follow the New American Media in all the places. But just a couple more and I will let you go here. There's a John G. Trump mention in the White House. If you know, you know. This is pseudo-significant.
141 years ago, Albert Einstein, 121 years ago, Albert Einstein published a paper. Nobody cares. Good point. Good point. I never go back.
He's like, get to the point, pal. Nobody cares. The point of the story is the point, not 100 or 141 years. Just get to the, nobody cares.
And usually they won't catch you, but published a paper on the photoelectric effect, recognizing the quantum behavior of light, that it came in quanta. 40 years after that, President Trump's uncle, John Trump, was a pioneer in applying light radiation and the reflections of it to develop radar.
President Trump's uncle, working with quantum technology, helped develop radar. Have you ever dug into the stories? I mentioned Antarctica. By the way, yeah, I'm a coast to coast AM, ancient aliens kind of researcher. I kind of deliver hard news. I try to be funny about it, even when the stories are trash. You can either laugh or cry, right? But I love these stories, and there's stories about John Trump. Was he a time traveler? He acquired, rumors have it that he acquired the writings of Nikola Tesla in New York. By the time whoever they were to get inside the domicile, the apartment, the condo of Nikola Tesla, all of the important papers and documents about the research he was working on was gone. And it's rumored that John G. Trump had that stuff and was working on that stuff. And then they have the time-traveling Baron Trump. There's a book. Look it up. Baron Trump, the time traveler. Hey, if we're getting ready to do alien disclosure, you got little Marco Rubio out there talking about it, and you got daggum Tim Burchett. I'm Tim Burchett, and I'll leave the light on for you. Daggum. We got daggum aliens in that daggum water, daggum it. I love Tim Burchett. It's nice to have a catchphrase. But if we're going to be talking about Nordics and Greys, maybe Project Bluebeam while we're at it, check into the stories about the Trump family, time travel, Nikola Tesla, time traveling Baron Trump. Do yourself a favor. Just go down the rabbit hole. Spend 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. Just typing in a few of those keywords and see what you see. It's very interesting.
The MIT Radiation Lab, critical in D-Day, critical in the end in winning World War II.
So winning World War II, radar, D-Day, quantum technology work from President Trump's uncle had something to do with that. Go figure.
That's the parallel of quantum innovation. 40 years after that, John Martinez down there pioneered taking quantum effects and building them into a device to capture that behavior. He was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics just last year for that discovery, that breakthrough. But 40 years, quantum phenomena are tough to harvest and tough to work with. But here we are, thanks to President Trump's leadership in the first term with Director Kratsios, to launch a major national effort on quantum. This is taking it to the next level. The future of computing is going to be a three-legged stool. It's high-performance computing, basically Moore's law in semiconductor manufacturing.
Look, by the way, I just want to say, don't make any jokes. I don't want to hear any jokes out there about, a three-legged stool or Big Mike or any of that. This is not the show for that. We're more highbrow. Let's keep it classy.
It's artificial intelligence that everyone's seeing and hearing about that's supercharging it. The third leg of that computing.
Once again, I just got to tell you, I don't want to hear the jokes. Whether it's Joan Rivers or, that guy with with the UFC thing.
Stool is going to be scientifically relevant quantum computing. This is tricky. We're not there yet. We're close. But with this executive order and this coordinated effort, we will have scientifically relevant, meaning error-corrected quantum computing during this administration. The impacts of it will be tremendous.
Tremendous is what he was saying. So stay tuned on all of that. All right, here's a story. 3 officers hospitalized after rescuing people and pets from a burning house from the Mesa Police Department. Congratulations and thank you, but they are hospitalized and pray that they can recover safely.
Came out and found a 9.
And I think this is the last story I'm going to share with you. So I'll first say thank you to everybody for being here. Make sure you smash the thumbs up button, hit like, hit subscribe, share the show with a friend. Got to double the show. Invite one person. Did you make contacts in Columbus yesterday? Invite somebody to make sure they're watching this show. Every morning, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Strictly speaking, Unfiltered with Bob France. Today, special guest. Here, let me put my name up again. The New American Media's Bran Engelman. And please, of course, follow the New American Media on Rumble. Our show will be at noon. And we're on YouTube, Rumble, all the places. The New American Media, because the old American media failed. TNAM, because the news always matters. We say seeking truth, challenging dogma, and having fun. Join our mostly civil conversation. From sports to spirituality, comedy to Congress, and freedom to firearms. So check us out, please. But this is a very interesting story. I've been following this Alpha Gal story a lot. And by the way, under threat of censorship by the big tech overlords for any countervailing views on anything regarding health or elections, go to, what is it? CISA.gov/rumor control, WHO.int, and the other one. Go get your countervailing views. But this alpha gal syndrome, they're like, oh, people are getting a meat allergy. I go, meat allergy? They're being poisoned. There are deep staters on record laughing about and talking about these cattle, these humans. They're eating too much beef. You need to own nothing and be happy. You're going to eat crickets and be happy. And there's too many humans. Georgia Guidestone says you need only 500,000 across the entire planet. We got to wipe out the rest of the useless breathers, right? So now what if we could just biologically engineer a tick to bite you and make you allergic to meat for the rest of your life? You monsters. Fauci, etc., people of his ilk. The ones that would experiment on beagles with flesh-eating flies that would slowly eat the animal to death, first with the eyeballs, and their whimpering and cries bothered the staff so much that they stopped the experiments. Oh, wait, no, they didn't stop it. They slit the vocal cord of the beagles so they couldn't hear them whimpering and crying and screaming in agony as they're eaten alive slowly. Yeah, those same people are genetically engineering weapons, be it mosquitoes, be it ticks, or be it something we haven't even talked about yet. To do something like Harvey Weinstein, I'm going to put this inside of you, or else I'm going to do whatever I want. I go inside of you, see? Okay, Harvey Weinstein. The tick goes inside you, gives you alpha gal syndrome. Now you're allergic to meat. No, you've been poisoned. You've been poisoned. Go get your countervailing views at who.int on that. But this is a report I just heard today. Haven't researched it yet. It's on Ask Dr. Drew. I do listen to the the Adam and Drew show on YouTube sometimes.
Okay.
But now we're hearing some reports, unconfirmed. We'll consider this from the rumor mill, something to do some further research on, just like time travel and Baron Trump, of course. But they're saying ear acupuncture has put 96% of alpha-gal patients into complete remission. I am unfamiliar with this, but I want to hear it and I want to share it with you.
Came out and found a 96% remission rate of alpha-gal syndrome in those who underwent this auricular acupuncture procedure. And so as you can see to the right, it's a very strange procedure. I never would have thought this would have worked, but you can't argue with 96% eating meat again. So they touch a bottle of alpha-gal allergen. They touch the outside of the bottle. They use some sort of electrical detection device on the ear to identify the spot where to place the needle. They place the needle into the optimal spot. They put tape there, leave it there for 3 weeks. When the 3 weeks are up, they take it out, and 96% of them could eat meat again after slowly reintroducing it. So this is extraordinarily promising. If I had alpha-gal syndrome, I would for sure undergo this procedure. Came out and
all right. Consider this undocumented, unverified from the rumor mill. This information is not intended to treat. What do they say on those stupid ads? That previous segment was not intended to treat, cure, or diagnose any medical condition or something. If you can do ear acupuncture to get rid of alpha-gal, good. Because meat, red meat, eggs, some of the best stuff we're supposed to be eating. No thanks. I don't need your bioengineered fake meat. I don't want your soy, genetically modified. I'm good. I'll pass. Thank you very much. But speaking of pass, now how do I get me back onto the screen? Hold on. We're trying to get this. Stop the screen. I've stopped the screen, but now I don't see me. We're having a glitch here. Solo layout. Oh, there we go. Look, I figured it out. Lori Cyrene says, even though navigating the page and the layout was a little tricky at times, even though that monologue seemed to last forever, said somebody. Even though someone said, he did that Obama voice a little too much. He should have done more Bobby Kennedy, if I'm being honest. Lori Cyrene says, good guest host. Come back. Well, thank you, Lori Cyrene. I appreciate that. That's very nice of you to say. I had a very good time. And I would come back. So if Bob enjoyed the show as well, my hand is raised. As long as my schedule allows it, it was my pleasure. It was my honor. So thank you all for being here. Final time. Thumbs up button. Everyone make sure you tippity tap that thumbs up button. It matters for algorithms. All your comments, if you haven't commented yet, just comment something. Actually, everybody comment something. How many smartasses will type something on the screen? Actually, here's my request. Type a good quote. One of my quotes that I had on the back of my business cards for many years was, people would enjoy life more if once they got what they wanted, they could remember how much they wanted it. People would enjoy life more if once they got what they wanted, they could remember how much they wanted it. So in the chat, if you could leave me a quote or just say something or tap it, all of that interaction, it helps the algorithm. It helps boost Bob's, where's it at? Strictly Speaking, Unfiltered show out to the masses. And as we try to grow this movement, try to grow the Patriot movement, try to link up with other smart, like-minded individuals, it all matters. And we ask you to bring somebody to the bar tomorrow, please. And of course, we'll be live on the New American Media TNAM Daily Show, noon Eastern time. I don't know if we're going to cover these stories, or we'll probably go onto our X feed and go through those stories. Different information we have on every network that the New American Media is on. So please follow the New American Media, Instagram, Facebook, Truth Social, Rumble, YouTube. Consider becoming a monthly subscriber. Even $5 a month makes a huge difference. And, do the same with Bob. It's $60 a year to say, I'll pledge $5 a month on Rumble. I'll be a subscriber. YouTube. I don't know if they have it on YouTube, but yeah, sign up or drop a Rumble Rant tip. Help Bob out. You know, there's overhead to drive, spend an entire day, hours away in Columbus, and then come back. And it's a full-time job. It's 10 hours a day. If you like something, support it so you can see more of it. If you don't water, if you don't fertilize, if you don't water, you're not going to get good grapes. You know, if you want to see more of something, support it. Yes, I am Roz. With God, all things are possible. God sees the truth. But wait, it's good quotes. Well, thank you to Roz and Rosebud and Lori Serene and everybody else. Oh, Patriot Warrior Texas, of course. If he had his show up and running, I'd tell you to follow it, but follow Patriot Warrior Texas as well, who dropped that $25 Rumble Rant into the tip jar back here. Not too shabby. I filled in for Bob France, and I even got you a nice little tip with your name on it, buddy. There's an envelope waiting for you at the beginning of your next shift. Oh, good. You did like the Obama voice. Thank you so much. I love doing voices. Now, I've been on stage doing stand-up comedy. Full sets. Now it's open mic, so like 4 minutes. I've done entire sets as Bobby Kennedy. And that's actually pretty tough to do. Trying to make sure you don't give yourself a hernia, forcing the energy into the sternum. Yeah, but you can ask Patriot Warrior Texas if he's still in the chat. Once I get into Obama voice, it's kind of the cadence that does it for me. I really like doing it, and it's hard to break it sometimes. It's just so fun. Even when the news is horrific and terrifying and sad or depressing or challenging, let's try to laugh a little bit. Let's try to have some fun with it. Jodo says, loved the show. Well, we love you too. Make sure everybody hits thumbs up, hits like, hits subscribe on their way out the door. Thank you all for being here. I believe Bob, I didn't talk with Bob about tomorrow, so I will not comment if he's planning on being back. I don't know. But thank you for being here. Signing out on behalf of everybody out there in the TNAM universe and everybody here in the Strictly Speaking Unfiltered universe. I appreciate you. I love you. And we'll talk to you again soon. Take care, everybody. Peace.
Crank it up. Let it roll. Stars and stripes in my soul. Steel toes on, boots in the gravel. Heartland truth on every channel. Open Bible, flag on the wall. We say what we believe or we don't talk at all. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the beltway. We won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. We back the badge, we guard the border. We love our guns and law and order. They try to shame every word we say, but we don't bow down. We just press play. This is red, white, and raise hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born to rebel from the back road to the bell. Hey, we won't fade, we won't fail. Proud, loud, standing tall. Red, white, and raise hell. You can cancel the show, but not the crowd. We're still here, still talking loud. Hand of the free on every spell. Hit that mic, host, let the truth ring out. This is red, white, and raised hell. Cowboy hat, church bell. Can't scare us into silence. We were born